They're doing the crazy stuff to make a statement. Except that what is satire here, what is considered satire here because it's so far-fetched, that's life today.
That's what cracks me up because you got to figure at the time this came out, people went like, "Oh, okay, it's a little over the top, but I still like it." And you watch it now, it's like, nah, none of this is over the top.
No,
it'd go down like that.
no, this has become reality. It was recommended from you, the Toasties out there, Martin. They said, you know something, you've been talking about all these bad movie reviews, all these terrible films, and while they're hilarious, you know, sometimes you just get tired of hearing about bullshit. And now you don't even, you can't go out and review the latest movies because, well, we know what Roni did to that. So you guys recommended that we go over to AFI's, the American Film Institute, their list of 100 greatest movies of all time. I think Martin said in the past, 100 years?
Yeah, I think it, like the list came out in 2007, so it was the 100 years of from that point.
Yeah. And then, you know what? And I immediately got offended by that. I said, do you know who you were talking to? Do you know who I am? I am Corey Coleman. Critique. I've seen every classic movie out there. That's my job. In fact, you know what? Just to patronize you, I'm going to go look at this goddamn list right now, just so I can look at everything and go like, I've seen that. What the is that? So, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't even know that existed. So turns out I have not seen every movie on that list.
Yeah, it is funny to look at that list. Oh, Modern Times. Oh, yeah, with Chevy Chase. I saw that. Oh, that's not the way you mean? This is something from the 20s? Oh, okay. Never mind. I didn't see that.
Yeah. I've seen a lot. Now, out of 100, I don't think it's so bad. I think I've seen on that list, it was, I'm going to say 20. It might be a little bit less, but still, that's a good number of movies to see on that list. So I said, all right, you know what? This is cool. Gives us something to do for a show. And it actually goes in, and we're able to take your advice and finally do it. So Kevin King, our production assistant extraordinaire, he made a list, and we're going to do another list for you guys to vote on, another poll. But he did a poll right here. He took 4 movies off of there. You guys, you gave 50 subs for this, and we have Tootsie, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Network, and American Graffiti. And the movie that you chose out there was Network. Now, before we get into this, and we're going to talk about it, because that's I believe it's number 64 on AFI's list of greatest movies of all time, the last 100 years, whatever. And I said, well, you know what? We'll see about that. Some things just don't age right. Some of y'all just hit classic and you think that's what you're supposed to call it. No, over here, we don't. No, we think for ourselves. You know, this is from one of my, let me pull this up here. This is from one of my favorite periods, favorite decades in filmmaking, which is the 70s, Martin. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people, they look at the 80s and they think that the 80s, that was the start of the blockbuster age. 80s is where it all Spielberg came in and it up for everybody, man. It used to be about the art, man. It used to be about cinema, not just selling toys and special effects. No, that's true to a certain degree. It is the decade that blockbusters, that they started to rule. But let's not forget, it did get a head start in the late 70s from a certain film.
Somewhere in space, this may all be happening right now. Star Wars.
Here they come.
Pew, 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 pew. You know, before it was deep dialogue, before, you know, it was deep characterization and messages about the world we live in. Now it's just like, pew, you know, it's all about that. Oh, what happened? While past decades, they had their blockbusters. They had their sci-fi and fantasy blockbusters, just like we have today. You know, it was nothing new. Goes all the way even back to the black and white days. Right now, you're looking at Forbidden Planet right here. But the 70s, that was the period where you had movies with adult themes, movies with big social messages, movies with social awareness, movies that were actors films. You know, that was the decade where they kind of ruled, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, because before that, before Star Wars came along, it can be argued that the equivalent of the blockbuster level that Star Wars was, you could say that this movie was that.
I never wanted this for you.
That's The Godfather right there. You know that one. From the moment they start playing that music, you know that. So these directors, man, they were all about the cinema and the art, man. They were all about saying something. And apparently all these directors were mad as too. They were pissed off. Everyone thinks that the 70s was all disco balls and bell bottoms and pet rocks and all that kind of shit. Everybody thinks about the 70s. You know, they think of John Travolta, Saturday Night Fever. They think people just walked around doing that shit. You know, doing that, getting that pose right there. The 70s was a very dark period in history, man. At the time, they had an energy crisis that affected the economy overall, and economic growth at that time pretty much came to a halt. It had been growing ever since World War II ended, man. You know, we had seen an economic boost in this country, and it just kind of stopped in the 70s, man, with the energy crisis and a few other things. You know what? I can't stand this. I need some escape. Let me go watch a movie. You know, when you go see it, escapism was nothing that movies was about in the 70s most of the time. You know, unless you wanted to go see a talking dragon from Disney or something, you know, they were escapism was nothing. You walk out more depressed than what you went in for a movie. Because that period was.
I mean, you might have fun at a cheap sci-fi flick, but even that would have a depressing dystopian ending.
Yeah, Planet of the Apes was all about how the world was f***ed up, but they just put monkeys in that one. You know, it was a crazy period, man. But on the plus side, hey, you might walk out a little more enlightened. You know, they would have these deep social messages that reflected the times around us. And one of the darkest satires from that period was the movie that we're about to talk about right now, which is Network. You know, they consider this in this bit right here. This movie displays some of the greatest bits of acting, just bursts of great, incredible, genius acting in chunks, which is why you got incredible, quotable, and highly memorable and historical lines like this.
I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it.
That shit is so powerful. When I watched it, I actually went to my backyard. I'm as mad as shut the out.
Somebody threw a can at you.
Yeah, somebody threw a boot in my head. Shut your ass up. It's an incredible film, man. Incredible film. This was directed by director. Everybody knows this guy if you're into movies, man. Sidney Lumet. Dang, you look like Igor right there. I'm going to make the films. I can make the cinema. Yes. Sidney Lumet, who after that dark period, he brought us even the more frightening, The Wiz right here, if anybody remembers that.
I always forget that's him.
What's that?
Always forget that's him.
Oh, that's Sidney Lumet that made this, man. As I told you, it was a very dark period. That movie is frightening sometimes when you're a kid. They got images in here that are scary. It's the black retelling of The Wiz. Some people think that's scary enough for some folks. He put black people in The Wizard of Oz. But yeah, man, he made that. So he's a very, very eclectic director. But this right here is one of his great crowning achievements here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the trailer for Network.
Since this show was the only thing I had going for me in my life, I have decided to kill myself. I'm going to blow my brains out right on this program a week from today.
Yeah. You know, today they would do something just like that and they would find a way to put it out there. We would see that. Back in the day, this is shocking.
We totally would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does this go out live? 67. I want you to get up right now. Go to your windows.
By Patty Chayefsky, directed by Sidney Lumet.
That's back when they had a narrator that made anything sound like a horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, they had Pete's Dragon, a Disney movie, rated G. Listen, I gotta tell you, man, this movie, does it deserve to be the classic that they say it is, or is it just something where it earned it was given that title and it just sticks with it because, well, that's what people expect from this now. They feel like that they have to say that this is a classic. Let me tell you, first of all, I'll save it whether this deserves to be a classic or not by the end. You could probably guess what I'm going to say as we get closer to our final rating. It is still not only a movie that is very relevant for today, but shows us that we have not learned a goddamn thing. Nothing. In fact, we've only gotten worse as technology has gotten better.
Yeah, it hurts to watch this movie and see everything it was trying to tell us.
We have not learned a thing from movies like this, man. I mean, like I said, as technology has gotten quote unquote better, or has enabled us to do more things, the more that we've just been up more ways. To tell you about this movie, from the description that I'm about to tell you, you'll already see how it eerily resembles a lot of things that are going on today. But as I said, just more of it. In this movie, and again, you saw from the trailer, Howard Bill is a senior anchor at this fictional station, UBS. And he's being forced into retirement because he's getting low ratings. And have to say that the station, it's already got shit ratings anyway. Ain't nobody watching this station. This station's the last thing that people are watching. This is like the crackle of the network. The networks out there. Ain't nobody watching this. Nobody's watching this station, man. So when you've got bad ratings coming in, you've got to go. Plus, he's already approaching that age where he needs to retire anyway. So he slowly starts to have a nervous breakdown. Except for some of those parts of his nervous breakdown, he's doing it on the air. Now, normally, this is where you would commit somebody to the nut house. I'll try to get them some help, try to get them on some meds or something. But you could probably guess his meltdowns are getting huge ratings. And with this station already kind of being in the shitter, they're like, okay, you know what? Nobody's watching us anyway. Let's put a crazy man on the air, a guy who's losing it. Even if he wants to, even if he's talking about killing himself. And Howard becomes a phenomenon. He gets his own show where he becomes not the crazy ranting guy on the air, but he becomes a prophet. He becomes this purveyor of truth to the people out there. And people kind of follow him like he's some kind of cult member or cult leader. And while the network sees these this rise in ratings, the joke is really on them. Because as people rally behind this man that is obviously going insane, so does the news. And they just start, the people don't want real news anymore. They want crazy shit. And the network, as long as they're getting ratings, that's what they're going to sell them. Sound familiar? And they're doing that instead of real news. Sound familiar to all you folks out there? We could go on and talk about like how there are all these themes that kind of relate to today. I'm going to tell you something, man. There was a lot of filmmaking in the 70s that is just not what we see today. Even we see it as people who are trying to mimic the 70s, Mm-hmm. There was, there are a lot of movies from the 70s where that shit was just raw. Everything had a grittiness, man. Even though they were some of the nicest offices and homes, that shit just sometimes felt like just raw and gritty to the point of feeling real. Sometimes you didn't even know. You would look at these people on the air and say, or on the screen, he's like, nah, that motherfucker's really crazy. Or, nah, he's really mad. I don't think this is an act. Oh, no, they're really having sex. It was like a rawness to this where these were actors' movies, man. There were a lot of impactful raw performances that carried the film. Not like today, where you had a lot of special effects and clever camera shots and a lot of production. You had directors that focused on the performers. There's not even any music in this. This is a satire about how we're trying to sell people a fantasy world, a false world. They're not selling them any real news. So they want this to seem as real as possible. So they what they do is they take the music out of it because they don't want this to feel like a movie. There's no music in this at all.
Yeah, I was noticing. I mean, listening to this, I was like, man, it seems like a lot of movies that are about news don't have music in them. I've seen that a lot. And I guess it's just because, like, hey, we're trying to deal with a serious subject here, not so much a fantasy. But it adds to that feeling like you're actually watching people, not actors.
Well, that's the thing, man. You know, these people are talking about the difference between watching this bullshit on TV and watching anything on a screen and just buying it, wanting to be there instead of being in reality and addressing reality, and then talking about being in the real world. So they had to make this feel like the real world as much as possible. Mm-hmm. You know, they constantly, the movie's kind of meta. They talk about how you're not going to write this script for me. I'm going to live my life. You know, Howard, who's played amazingly by Peter Finch. When Howard loses his job, we don't go over this thing where Howard is, we get a sad musical cue while Howard walks down the street while we're supposed to have some sympathy for him. You know, this movie's not telling us how to feel. It does what would really happen in life. One of your coworkers or your best friend comes up and says, hey, man, I'm sorry about what happened. You know what? Let's go get up. Let's go get a drink.
Yeah.
And his best friend in the movie is played by the guy who's the head of the news department, William Holden, who's amazing in this.
Blow my brains out right on the air, right in the middle of the 7 o'clock news.
Get a hell of a rating, I'll guarantee you that.
You know why that feels real? Because if I was to tell Martin that right now, if I was to tell Martin, you know what, I had a bad day, Martin, I'm losing everything. I'm going to do a stream and blow my brains out. Martin be like, damn, that would be cool, man. And I'd be like, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it, man?
I would say that, but I'm like, I'm not going to let you do that.
Man, we get a lot of people watching. I bet we get our biggest audience. Yeah. I'm sure if I position it right, the bullet just go right through. Ain't nothing in there anyway. Yeah, man.
Now, I'm sure if I had a heart attack or a stroke on the air, you'd be like, I'm gonna call 911, but I want to make sure we get this shot so we can monetize this.
Yeah, oh hell yeah. Corey Martin had a strike. Shh, I see you.
If I get 50 more subscribers, I'll call 911.
Yeah. But do you see what I'm saying about that, man? The actors sold that, man. You know?
Oh yeah, they do throughout this. I mean, it's good dialogue for the most. You know, it's good dialogue all the way through. It's all very thoughtful. They have a lot to say. But I always also thought, you know what? Even if this dialogue was bad, these actors are so good. I mean, William Holden was always one of the best. Yeah. And this and young Faye Dunaway, she's toe to toe right there with him every time. I mean, everybody's good in it. Yeah. I just love the scenes with them and their relationship.
Yeah, William Holden is great. Incredible performer, man. Incredible performer. But you know, speaking of Faye Dunaway, I got the scene here with her and Robert Duvall because I want to illustrate something that I appreciate that they do today also. Now, very, very little directors did it, and even Spielberg at times. We talked about this with like Jaws when we were talking about how Spielberg, you know, he was coming up with films in the 70s and earlier, of course. But if you watch a lot of these early directors, man, who made films in the 70s, you notice that they do something you don't see a lot of people doing today because it doesn't seem polished. They allow the actors to talk over each other.
Oh yeah,
yeah. There are some directors who specialize in that. There's a director named Robert Altman. That was his thing, man, to let all these actors talk over each other. But that was just a kind of a thing to do because it felt natural. It felt natural to the audience. It felt natural for the actors to do it. And it wasn't an easy thing to do, but when they did it, it was impressive and it looked seamless. And when I see that in movies, man, I'm almost overjoyed. I love scenes like that.
I'm gonna impale the son of a bitch with a sharp stick through the heart.
40 million loss in revenues for the year.
I think I got a contract.
And let's not discount federal action by the Justice Department if CCA.
No, I'll do it myself.
If you listen carefully in this scene, I'll play a little bit more of it. It gives the appearance of being so unpolished. Don't get me wrong, it is. The way the camera follows Robert Duvall around, the way that this scene has to be choreographed for them to be able to like get these lines out without feeling like they're stepping over each other, and these people have to concentrate at the same time. It's a lot of work, but at the same time, there's a lack of polish that adds to it. I'm gonna play just a little bit more of what you've already seen, and you probably can't hear it too well, but if you listen closely, you can even hear the buzzing of something going on in the background, and they didn't try to take that out.
$2 billion isn't peak. That's the wrath of God. And the wrath of God wants Howard Beale fired.
What for? Every other network will grab him the minute he walks out the door. He'll be back on the air for ABC.
Shut your goddamn ass up. I ain't asking you a thing. You know, if you listen, again, it's almost as if everything is carefully planned out to make this feel like this is as real as possible, man. Even with things that are seen as imperfections right now.
Well, I think these are actors who are really very used to performing on stage, so they know how to work with each other.
Yeah.
And you know, they like doing rehearsals, not just having lines fed to you as you're on the set.
Yeah, man. You know, no, this is amazing, man. So far, what I've seen in this movie from an actor's side and from a production side has been incredible. As far as the story goes, the story in this is so sharp, man. You know, I look at this and, you know, the story is so sharp in its critique of the media, but you see direct parallels to media today that it is scary. When I watched the movie, you know, listen, you'll watch the movie and you will you look at Howard, because the movie does certain things that you would not, they're not logical, and there's a reason why they do them. But like Howard is having a nervous breakdown, and they let him back in front of the camera several times, and it's like, who would let this crazy back in front of the camera? You know, he would. The moment he came on, so I'm gonna blow my brains out. Security would have yanked his. They would have went to a commercial. They would have yanked his ass out of there, and he would not even be allowed back in the building again. The reason why they do it here is because this is satire. You know, they're doing the crazy stuff to make a statement. Except that what is satire here, what is considered satire here, because it's so far fetched. That's life today.
That's what cracks me up, because you got to figure at the time this came out, people went like, oh, okay, it's a little over the top, but I still like it. And you watch it now, it's like, none of this is over the top.
No.
It'd go down like that.
No, this has become reality. You know, what is going on here is that is considered satire is reality today. And that's crazy when you think about it, man, because believe me, and this is almost, they're being so crazy that it's almost a fantasy. This right here, you know, this is because what might look insane on network TV back in the day is normal for the internet today.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all media, but what is going for people who do this kind of stuff, yell kind of crazy things like this, do outlandish stuff. That is the new normal for the internet. It's and you know, it's normal because we see it all the time. I'm looking at the prophet Howard over here. You know, when you hear him talking, when I was watching this, I immediately said, you know what? He reminds me of someone very, very, very in particular. This guy is someone that everybody knows about today.
I want you to get up from your chairs, go to the phone, get in your cars, drive into the Western Union offices in town. I want you to send a telegram to the White House.
Now, I want you, chat, to come in and tell me, this kind of crazy shit, who does this guy remind you of? Give me just, you know, I already see some people coming in right now. Who, just give me two words. You said it, people. Alex Jones. Yeah, me and Crazy Jones. It's Jones over here. You know, this guy right here, when I saw how this guy was turning red, when I saw how this guy was ranting, how he was going off on like what sounded like conspiracy theories or government misdoings and misgivings and whatnot, I said, that's Alex Jones, man. You know, and I said, why wouldn't he remind me of him? They're both actors, you know, except one's in actual movies. And the other thing,
you know what?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, it's just it did make me think of Alex Jones, but not so much Alex Jones like we see him now, where all he does is just, you know, foam at the mouth and scream. But back in those early days of Access TV, if you caught him on the right night, he'd be saying a lot of things where you're like, well, that actually sounds like he's making some sense. And the minute you say that to somebody and they tune it in, he'd be going off. You'd be like, okay, never mind, forget that. But he would have those days. And that's what Howard reminded me of, where I'm like, all right, he's ranting and putting on a lot of theatrics, but a lot of what he's saying is the truth.
Yeah, no, it's the truth, and it does it remind you of Alex Jones back in the day. Because I looked at this and I said, "Wow, it reminds me of Alex Jones." Except Alex Jones is crazier.
Yeah.
You know, you see the de-evolution of news. The network gets taken over by the top personalities that sell anything but news. They're there for what they call infotainment, heavy on the tainment.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it. How do you feel? With Sybil, the soothsayer.
They got a Swami on the news, man. They got the white Miss Cleo up here. They got us surrounded by planets and shit. This is in the movie. This is
in the Zodiac.
This is news. They're calling me now.
Jim Webbing, and here sits the Emma Truth Department, Howard Beale.
You know, we can sit up here and immediately say Fox News, but really, it's encompassing a lot of things. This is anything.
Yeah.
This is anywhere from Fox News to exaggerated televangelists who are now looked upon as a source of news, to any crazy son of a bitch with 1 million views on the internet. But did you see what happened, people? That even with their craziest depictions, it's not as scary as what we have
It's not
today.
that crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Martin. I'll put you in the darkness. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane, man. It's I don't look at this movie and feel very comfortable, even though I have a lot of admiration for this film. It's a movie that I'm sitting up here and I'm admiring it. I'm loving it, and I'm just really sitting back and just like, Jesus, man, we are stupid. You know? There are moments in the movie where it goes so absurdist that you look at it and you say, okay, this had an influence on certain directors. There's no way that, you know, they looked at this and they were not somewhat they didn't get something from it and put it in their own work. I look at people like the Coen brothers, man.
Sure.
There's a scene in here, one scene alone, that I said this had an influence on the Coen brothers. And it's such a crazy scene. It's a great scene. It's a scene, and you saw it a little bit in the trailer. I'm gonna play some of it again. It's the one with Ned Beatty.
Yeah, it feels like it comes out of the Hudsucker Proxy.
Yeah, man. The shit in this, it's so crazy what they're doing here. It freaked out the craziest motherfucker in the movie.
I know.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and I won't have it. Is that clear? That is.
You're like, damn, he dropping some good shit right now.
I know.
He made his ass normal. You looking at him like that. This motherfucker been right since them hillbillies in the ass.
I had no idea what I was talking about up to this point.
He like, shit, let me settle my crazy ass down. If somebody said he's dropping bars right now.
He is. I tell you what I love about the scene is that it seems so absurdist, like out of nowhere. And then when it finishes, you go, oh, I totally got the point of that.
Yeah.
There was a reason behind it all.
Yeah, the trailer makes it look crazier than what it is.
Yeah.
It actually makes a lot of sense in context, even some of the crazy lines in there. I will get to like some criticisms I have of the movie, but before I do that, Mark, let me pass it on to you because you probably have some other things you want to say about the film.
Well, you've been doing a good job of covering it. The performances are great, the writing is great, and movies from the 70s, a lot of the dramas, they were just 70s movies had a different pace than what we're used to. Because not only did our movies, become more where it was mandatory that they had happy endings, but they also, it's like always somebody there with a counter going, come on, keep it going.
Yep.
Something happening all the time. And with a lot of 70s movies, it's not that way. And you just have to get used to it. And yet I still didn't feel like this slowed down in anywhere where I was like, all right, this is where it gets dry. It wasn't anything big happening. Sometimes it's just two people talking with each other, going over things, but I was still very into it the entire 2 hours that it's on.
This thing between Faye Dunaway and William Holden, even they make it great. I just felt like, so there's this romantic subplot here with Faye Dunaway, who's very opportunistic in the movies, you can tell, young, trying to make a name for herself. Has daddy issues to where she
Sure.
got herself a daddy. Yeah, but William Holden is great. The guy that's in love with a younger woman, wants to leave his wife, and Martin said here. But I found that this part to be the most movie-like in a film that is, that kind of, again, I gave credit for its grittiness, its natural feel. That is the one where I said, okay, all of this feels kind of schmaltzy in a way. That's the one that stands out here where I see what's going on. I like the messages behind it. There's some real clever stuff going on with it, but I didn't know if I wonder if the movie even really needed it that much.
Well, see, I feel like it did because it wanted to put at least some people who are human, not just players in the plot going on. But so often with something like this, they would make this romance schmaltzy or sentimental, and it's never that.
No,
it's always like dicey. You just feel on edge with the two of them the whole time. It's funny how it starts out where you're like, man, he's gonna catch a hashtag doing this. Yeah, and she quickly flips it. I'm like, all right, no flag, no hashtags, no fault. These are two grown ass people who know what they're doing. Never mind, stay out of it.
Yeah. Like I said, I liked it, man. It's so well done. I think what it is too is that I talked about the filmmaking and talked about how the filmmaking felt to me, where even that was that had a natural feel to it. It was pared down. I keep using the word gritty in there, but here they did that filmmaking that was noticeable. We always talk about the male gaze in the movie where you have a guy who they'll film a guy and looking normal, and then when they put it on the woman, she's all glowing and she's all soft, and you can see that. Look how sharp he is. Now look at this. See how soft they got her. And I was like, wow. It's like that. Now I can feel the filmmaking right here. They put her in a very soft focus. That is what they call and this is some film shit. I'm not trying to throw it out there to sound like film school, but that they call that the male gaze, and that is it stands out very much right here. It's they do some close-ups on Faye Dunaway when she's not, and again, this is why this stood out to me, because they have her like this in the most romantic parts, where they got her in soft focus and they got her looking all beautiful and everything, looking like a Disney ass princess or something. But then when she's not in those romantic scenes, when she's on her own, boy, her teeth yellow as butter, man. Look here.
I know. I noticed that too.
I like, damn, she been sucking on a yellow highlighter, man. What the fuck? And and I don't even mind it, man. I was like, I like that. See, this is cool because I found that even more attractive because I like that feels real.
It feels real, yeah.
I'm not even trying to criticize it, man. I'm like, no, don't go bleach that shit. No, that looks good.
Too late. She's already done it.
Damn, you did not brush your teeth at all after that macaroni and cheese, did you? The film is amazing. And I'm not saying that because, again, it has the moniker of being a classic. I'm not doing that at all. I don't feel any obligation to say that. I work in media. I see how it goes. We all see how the news is today. We all see how the internet is today. We see what social media is like. And in its own way, this capsule in time right here captured what it meant for them back then, and it's still relevant to as crazy as things are today. And I found that is amazing when your story is that sharp that it can do that. Make this comment and criticism on sensationalist media. Why'd y'all do this, brother, like this? I love how the movie escalates to a point where they're dealing with such a crazy person that they have to actually attach it to other crazier things to keep their audience. Like to a point where they're dealing with terrorists. They're dealing with fried chicken eating terrorists. That's what I thought. I looked at this and I said, man, you know what? I love that they brought in the terrorists, but did they have to show this brother eating chicken? Hello, man. This brother's eating chicken straight out the bucket, not a plate, from the bucket.
Well, that's because he's the Grand Poobah. He can do that.
I thought, and the thing I saw the trailer, I thought that chicken played a role in the movie. I thought they were making a point. That chicken had nothing to do with this except he's black and Negroes love fried chicken. I thought the Colonel was going to come in here and make an appearance. I mean, that fool is smacking down on that too. And I was like,
yes, he is.
I said, man, that played no role except he's black. They could have been eating pizza. You know, they're gonna be eating Chinese. I do love the film, man. I think it's amazing. It definitely deserves to be where it is. And you know what? If I was to go back and watch all these movies over again, you know, everybody has a reason why they love certain films, and I might have my reasons for why this movie would probably even be higher than some of the films that are on there. But again, you know, I haven't gone back and looked at all those movies. But this is
are those movies are they listed by, like, is that a ranking?
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know.
Because there's no way I'd have this at 64. It'd be much higher.
Yeah, yeah, man. This is as far as looking at this right now, it's still fresh, but you know, I don't know if I can go off and say it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but it definitely is one of the best movies I have seen in a while, man. I mean, this is why you go back and watch these classic films. They're more than likely, you know, they're probably there for a reason. There'll be a few up there saying, okay, I don't get it. But as far as this film goes, it's amazing. This is better than Sex for me.
It's such a pleasant surprise because you never know if something's going to be dated, and this movie is the opposite of dated. It's way ahead of its time. It's uncomfortably relevant, and you know that you're going to watch it 10 years from now, or somebody's going to discover it for the first time 10 years from now, and they're going to have the same effect of like, well, goddamn, all this time nothing's changed. But yeah, everything about it, everything about it hits. It's you know, it's firing on all cylinders. It's a low better than Sex.
Yeah, you're funny. I was thinking a little better than Sex too, but I was just kind of like, you know what? I didn't want to do that because people.
I know.
Damn, you ain't having good sex, are you?